Sherri Shepherd was once seen as one of the brightest stars on television. People loved her for her smile, her humor, and the way she brought warmth wherever she went. But you won't believe how behind that shining image, her personal life was falling apart in ways that shocked even those closest to her. Sherri had worked hard to rise from being a legal secretary in Beverly Hills to becoming a household name. She had made people laugh on The View and many other shows. But while the cameras caught her laughter, they didn't catch the tears she cried at home. It all started when Sherri married Jeff Tarpley in 2001. At first, everything seemed perfect. They looked happy together, and in 2005, their joy grew when they welcomed their son, Jeffrey. But this is where it gets interesting. That's like not long after cracks began to show in their marriage. Sherri tried her best to keep her family together, but things only got worse. The man she once trusted started drifting away from her. Their relationship turned cold, and soon it became clear that their marriage was heading for divorce. But let me tell you, this wasn't just any divorce. It was the start of a long, painful battle that would leave Sherri emotionally drained. When the divorce became official in 2010, Sherri found herself not just heartbroken, but also fighting for something far more important, her son. Jeffrey had been born prematurely, and he had special needs that required extra care. Sherri was determined to provide him with a stable and loving home. But here's the shocking part. Instead of a peaceful agreement, the divorce turned into a fierce custody battle. The courtrooms became like battlegrounds. The media followed every detail, and Sherri could not hide from the headlines. The same fans who once cheered for her now read gossip about her private pain. The craziest part, as the custody fight went on, Sherri still had to show up on The View, smiling, laughing, and acting like nothing was wrong. Inside, she felt broken. There were days when she went from courtrooms filled with tension to studios filled with bright lights. But she kept going because she believed she had to stay strong for her son. Sherri leaned on her faith and her close friends. She prayed every night, hoping for strength to face another day. What makes this story different? It wasn't just about a woman going through a divorce. It was about a mother fighting for her child while the world watched and while her heart was breaking into pieces. Sherri's story during this time was like a roller coaster. One day she felt hopeful, thinking the worst was behind her. The next day, she faced setbacks that made her feel like she was losing everything. But she refused to give up. Her love for Jeffrey kept her going. Even when the media tried to paint her as weak, she showed that she was anything but that. Behind closed doors, she cried, she prayed, and she planned her next steps. But in front of the cameras, she stayed the woman people admired, kind, funny, and full of life. Sherri thought that after surviving the painful custody battle with Jeff Tarpley, life would finally give her some peace. But destiny took an unexpected turn when she met Lamar Sally. At first, Sherri believed she had found a fresh start. Lamar seemed like the man who could help her heal, someone who would stand by her side after all the heartache. They got married in 2011, and Sherri truly hoped this would be her chance at a happy family. But let me tell you, this new chapter turned out to be even more heartbreaking than the last. In the beginning, everything looked perfect on the outside. Sherri smiled at public events with Lamar by her side, but behind closed doors, things were falling apart. Their marriage became full of arguments and pain. And then, here is the shocking part. They decided to have a child through surrogacy, thinking it would bring them closer. But as the pregnancy moved forward, their relationship completely broke down. By the time the baby was about to be born, Sherri and Lamar were no longer speaking with love. They were only exchanging harsh words and blame. This is where it gets interesting. Before the baby was even born, Sherri and Lamar separated. And while Sherri tried to step away quietly, Lamar made it impossible. He served her divorce papers publicly, and the media caught every detail. Headlines screamed about her failed marriage and the child on the way. Sherri felt humiliated. The woman who had once made millions laugh now became the center of gossip. But the craziest part, the child, born through a surrogate, was not biologically hers. Yet, the court ruled that Sherri was legally the mother and had to pay child support. Imagine the pain. Already heartbroken over the failed marriage, Sherri now faced paying for a child she felt she had been tricked into having. The legal system didn't care about her side of the story. The media didn't care either. They painted her as cold, as if she had walked away from the child on purpose. But the truth was far more complicated. Sherri felt trapped in a situation she never wanted. Every day became a struggle, fighting legal battles, reading cruel comments online, and trying to protect her son, Jeffrey, from all the noise. Despite the shame and the pressure, Sherri didn't stop working. She went on with her shows, her podcasts, and her public appearances. But inside, she was carrying so much pain that it felt like the world was on her shoulders. What makes this story different? It wasn't just about a woman paying child support. It was about betrayal, public shaming, and a system that didn't seem to care about the truth. Sherri stayed strong by turning to prayer and surrounding herself with the few people she could trust. Each day, she reminded herself that she had to keep going for Jeffrey, for herself, and for the future she still hoped to build. After everything Sherri had already endured, 2 failed marriages, a bitter custody battle, and the humiliation of being forced to pay child support for a child she wasn't biologically connected to, you would think the storm was finally over. But you won't believe how things got even harder for her in 2017. Sherri tried to move on with her life, focusing on raising her son Jeffrey and rebuilding her career. She thought that maybe, just maybe, she could finally breathe again. But here is the shocking part. Lamar Sally returned to court, demanding even more child support from her. Let me tell you, this wasn't just a fight over money. It was like tearing open old wounds. Lamar's legal team argued that since Sherri's career was doing well, she was earning from TV shows, her podcasts, and other projects, she should pay more. But for Sherri, it wasn't about the dollars. It was about the betrayal she still felt. This case brought back all the hurt from the past, all the nights she had cried herself to sleep, and all the times she had questioned how her life had turned into such a nightmare. And now it was all happening again, right in front of the cameras, with the media ready to turn her pain into gossip. This is where it gets interesting. While Lamar painted a picture in court of Sherri as a wealthy star who could easily pay more, no one seemed to care about how unfair the whole situation was. Sherri had tried to walk away quietly. She had tried to move on, but every time she took a step forward, it felt like someone pulled her back into the same dark place. The craziest part, the more she tried to focus on healing and growing, the more the public judged her, as if she was the villain in her own story. Every court date felt heavier than the last, every headline felt sharper. But Sherri, through it all, kept showing up. For Jeffrey, for her fans, and most importantly, for herself. She leaned hard on her faith. Prayer became the one thing that kept her steady when everything else felt like it was falling apart. And while the court battle over child support drained her energy, time, and resources, Sherri stayed focused on protecting her peace. She reminded herself daily that she had survived worse, and she would survive this too. In 2017, after months of stress and tears, Sherri finally got what felt like a victory. The court did not grant Lamar the extra money he wanted. What makes this story different? This wasn't just a win in court. It was a moment where Sherri reclaimed a piece of herself. She had been through so much, but she stood tall, proving to herself and the world that she was stronger than anyone had given her credit for. That victory was about more than money. It was about taking back her life little by little and showing that no matter how many times she was knocked down, she would always rise again. After the 2017 court battle, Sherri felt like she could finally close the chapter on the most painful years of her life. But even then, the scars of everything she had been through stayed with her. You won't believe how deeply those experiences shaped her. Every choice she made after that was with more caution, more thought, and more strength. The woman who once felt broken now stood taller, wiser, and more determined to live life on her terms. Sherri decided that enough was enough. No more letting the past control her future. Let me tell you, Sherri didn't just survive the storm. She turned it into fuel. She focused fully on her son, Jeffrey, pouring all her love and energy into raising him the best way she could. She stayed true to her work, building her talk show Sherri and keeping her audience laughing, even when her heart still carried the weight of old battles. Sherri used her platform to speak openly about the struggles she had faced. This is where it gets interesting. Instead of hiding her pain, she shared it so other women, other mothers, and even fans going through hard times would know they weren't alone. She often said that faith had saved her. Sherri prayed through the darkest moments, and those prayers gave her the strength to forgive. Yes, what makes this story different? Sherri forgave the people who hurt her, not because they deserved it, but because she deserved peace. She let go of the anger, the bitterness, and the sadness that could have ruined her spirit. And that forgiveness didn't just heal her heart, it freed her. Sherri found joy again, not in what people thought of her, but in knowing she had made it through the fire and was still standing. The craziest part, the world saw Sherri as a woman who had it all together, but few knew how close she had come to falling apart, and yet there she was, stronger, smarter, and more full of life than ever. She took every painful lesson and used it to lift others up. On her talk show, in her podcast, and in interviews, she spoke from the heart, sharing her truth so others might find courage in her journey. She showed that no matter how hard life hits, you can get back up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. Destiny took an unexpected turn, but Sherri made that turn her own. Today, she lives with grace, with purpose, and with a heart that has been tested but never broken. Her story became one of true resilience, proof that even when the world sees your pain, it's how you rise that people will remember. Sherri's journey, filled with struggles and victories, continues to inspire, showing that no battle is too big when your faith and your will to fight are even bigger.